Hello and welcome back to Bricking It. This week's build we're going to be focusing on the graveyard at Little Hangleton. When Voldemort makes his dramatic return, we're just going to start off by building up some of the landscape in the background. Now, when I initially planned out this build, it was going to be a lot bigger because of the space I have to store and to display. There was going to be a folding base and sarcophagus and all sorts of things all over the place. And I rapidly realised that a lot of it was going to be superfluous, not really going to be needed, so I quite boiled down what I wanted from this mock pretty much to its essence. So this is going to be much smaller, just on an 8x16, although I have added an extra row at the front, so it's in fact a 9x16. And as you can see, I'm just building up the landscape at the back of the mock for now. Now when we get to the graveyard in the movie, actually the background changes a few times. It's quite odd. When they first arrive in the graveyard, Cedric and Harry, behind Tom Riddle's father's grave, you can actually see the Riddle house in the background. And that changes a little later, and there's a mound with a mausoleum built into the side of it. And then it changes again, and suddenly the church of the churchyard seems to get a lot closer, and the backdrop during the duel is pretty much the church. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to do the background, so I just decided not really to do much of any of it and just do the sky. I did put some interesting bits and bobs at the back, which we'll see later on. But for now, we're just going to build up this slight slope because there is a suggestion of hilly ground. And actually, when Cedric buys it, it actually ends up on a slight incline that I've included in the mock. Now, just so there's not just the one graveyard in this mock, we're going to be putting a couple of gravestones here. This one in black, just so it's going to contrast nicely with that background. And then this one here, which is very much based on one of the gravestones in the graveyard set that came out a couple of years ago. Even used the stickers, as you can see, from that set. Just slight changes just to make it fit within the confines of my build. There's a couple of background gravestones. I'm going to add this clear piece. I'm going to be seeing why we're using that in a moment. Just a couple of transparent bricks, a couple of transparent pin pieces on top. And you're going to probably recognise this fairly soon as almost piece for piece the statue of Tom Riddle's grave from that graveyard set. Again, using the stickers as they come. Now, because we're not doing the play feature with the raising from the grave, we don't need to build it up on the platform, and it can be at largely ground level, just as it was in the movie. Just going to fill in our parts here. Here's the quite nice little tilted base for Harry to be placed on. And then that will finish off with our statue with their scythe. And that's our Angel of Death and our gravestones. So what about this piece here? Well, the wings that come on the main set really are not very impressive, and they don't really fit with the grandeur of the scene we're trying to display. So I want to make it a bit more interesting. I'm just building up this little collection of clips. They're just going to slot onto these pins here at the back, because the wings I'm going to use are not going to fit onto any kind of minifig attachment, but as this is a static display, this can be a perfect way to display them. We're actually using Buckbeak's wings in that dark bluish grey. They match the statue very nicely. Just pop into this little clip arrangement. Once it's in position, we get a much more impressive statue. It really does dominate the display space of our build. So there we go, that's our gravestones. Time to start adding a few more details to the mock. Starting of course with Harry. He is confined behind the side of our Angel of Death in our statue. That's going to be the main focus of our build. It's getting a bit monochrome here. There's a lot of green and grey, all in large concentrations. So we're going to break up some of these masses of single colours with a couple of dark red flowers. I don't want to go too bright and cheery, and I do like these little dark red blossoms that came in, I think, the Cherry Blossom Botanicals set, just recently released. It's very much like those. So I thought I'd add a couple in. Just going to build up the fire for our large cauldron, again coming from our graveyard set from a couple of years ago. Use a dark red piece instead of reddish brown directly under the cauldron, just to intimate, you know, that fire glow, and just to give a bit more of a practical image of the fire beneath the cauldron. Just going to use a couple of these small flame pieces. Don't want to go too nuts or raise it up too high because you don't want to obscure Harry. Just going to have this down in front of that cauldron piece. Now, there's quite a lot of different gravestones around and about. One of the most interesting ones was this obelisk. You can see it in the graveyard scene. Not exactly in this position, but I thought it just added another nice bit of contrasting colour. Now, to really take up some space in the background of this module, as it's 16 studs high with a backdrop, I'm going to make use of that height. So just putting in this mixel joint, I'm just going to build up a dead tree. Again, something you see in the background of the scene at various points and in various different locations throughout the scene. Some of these large dead trees. I've got this clip arrangement. That's just going to help to secure the tree to the backdrop to stop it waving about, because that single mixel joint, when it does the job, isn't particularly sturdy. It doesn't always keep the tree in position. Using some of these 1x1 studs with holes and these clips, and create some shorter branches, get a few more interesting angles that the Technic connectors don't allow us to do. And they're going to be finished off with these reddish brown plant stem pieces. And here we've got one of the smaller stems inside that larger one, just to give us a bit more selection of branches. Now I've got these Technic connectors numbers 3 and 5, and that just describes the acuteness of the angle at which they're placed. When I originally built this, I had some number 4 connectors, but in reddish brown they seem to be unusually expensive. So when I put in my Bricklink order to order parts, I just got 3s and 5s. So my tree is a little bit of an odd angle, but thanks to these smaller parts that you can rotate to various different degrees, we can actually get a better overall look of the tree. Of course, this one here, as it's been attached by a pin rather than an axle, we get to rotate and just choose the position of our branches. You can really fine tune that, and I'll do a bit more of that actually once it's in the mock. So let's get our tree installed. It's just going to sit onto this pin. As you can see, it holds fairly well, but there we go, it does like to droop over because the weight isn't evenly distributed. So what we need is our backdrop. Might be able to see that 1x1 stud up just there on the top right. Of course, this is for my bookshelf, so it's got the book covers on the back and our little stud there, and that's just going to help me to locate my tree support once the backdrop is attached. Gives us an extra anchor point for the backdrop, and also helps keep our tree in the same general position. So that's nice and upright now, attached and pretty much invisible. Once we've got our display, and here we can fine tune the branch positions. As the grey base plate at the back can represent a foggy sky, I decided to use it as part of the display, and just using a couple of these cloud pieces, one of these 3x3 glow in the dark parts, I've got the moon and clouds in the sky. Yeah, we've used that backdrop space quite nicely. We're going to add the unfortunate Cedric lying off to the side. sort of slumped down the slope as he appears in the film. And of course, Wormtail and the homunculus of Voldemort ready for the ritual to begin. So that's all the components of our build, nice and compact. Could be expanded, and I might do in the future. For now though, this is our build. Quite happy with it. As I say, I might expand it in the future, just for the sake of making a video about it, just to come up with some various sarcophagus designs and things. I actually came up with a few that I was quite proud of whilst initially designing this mock that I realised I wouldn't need when it got much smaller. So all that remains then is to say thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave us a like, leave your comments or thoughts down below. And if you'd like to see more Wizarding World mock builds, please subscribe to Bricking It. Bye bye.